welcome. Another day, struggling through another OSCP practice box. I'm a pen tester in the field, and in this video series, you're basically are going to see me how I struggled to practice for the OSCP. And I thought, why don't I take you on the journey? I'm doing internal today, and I like to start off with a ping. I like to check the TTL value. It's 125, which basically means it's a Windows box, and different boxes have different TTL values. Like usually Linux ones will have something around 64. Other boxes will have something else. I like to run Rust-Scan because it's pretty fast and it gives me a capability to um, take all the ports that I discover and put them through Nmap. So this first part basically scans through all 65535 ports, and the second parts will basically take these open ports and put them through like a script vulnerability version scan and save the Nmap report in all formats. And we can see there are quite a lot of ports open, which is not unusual for a Windows box. I bet these later ports are all um, RPC or some Windows internal ports, and the box's name is internal, so it should be fun. DNS53 is open. Probably some sort of DNS transfer I'm gonna try. 135, 139, which are NBTNS, NetBIOS, and 445. This is interesting. It's SMB. As a pen tester and a red team operator, SMB is something that I really like. Lots of enumeration comes from there. On the side, what I like to do is also run UDP scan for top ports 20 because for CTS and mostly for Offsec boxes, I've seen that they're mainly a few open ports like DNS. We can see NetBIOS because it's a Windows box. In Linux, you wouldn't see that. Sometimes we see SNMP open. Open or filtered basically means it's behind a firewall or it's closed. But for a CTF, I'd just say it's closed and not bother too much. NetBIOS is open and TCP as well, so I'm not going to look into that. That concludes our UDP testing. So very fun. We didn't have to do a lot in UDP. Just a sec while I note down this time thing because I want to put the timestamp and I don't want to spend a lot of time. So stay tuned. All right. Uh, our Nmap results came back. We can basically see them here. Um, We have SMBOS Discovery. It's a Windows Server 2008 standard 6,000 service pack. This is interesting because it's a pretty old server, and we might find um, some unpatched Windows vulnerabilities. But those are usually my last take. I don't want to go for them as my first thing. SMB2 security mode. SMB signing is enabled but not required. For a single box, this is not a big finding, but in a pen test, this would be a major finding because it creates all sorts of relay and um, credential stuffing stuff. Yeah, it creates opportunities for those. SMB security mode is guest, so the guest user is enabled, it seems. For the ports, we have 3389, which is, if I'm not wrong, RDP, right? Am I tripping? 3389 is RDP, right? Windows port 3389. Yep, remote desktop. That is RDP. I don't know what's happening. Um, Domain DNS is on Microsoft DNS Server. It seems like we can do it's Windows Server 2000 ASP1. We have already seen that, so we can try that with a domain DNS zone transfer or something, some attack like that. We can also see SSL subject, common name is internal. Now, whenever I see some type of host name, I like to add that to my etc hosts file because who knows, probably sometime in the future, I'll thank myself for doing that because it will help me resolve some stuff that otherwise would have driven me crazy. So now I'd like to start my enumeration. For that, port 445 looks promising. I want to start with that. Port 53, I also want to check that out. So I like to use this tool called netexec. It's on 151 at the moment. Always use netexec with pipex. So if I do pipex list, you can see that I have the entire im packet installed using pipex, bloodhound, which are active directory stuff, and also netexec because pipex never let you down. Okay, so NXC, and then I'm going to do SMB because I want to check the SMB service. I'm going to do the hostname internal. First, I'll try to do this, which is without any username and password. And this plus basically means blank username and password, or in other words, null authentication works in this box. SMB version 1 is true, which is another juicy thing. There are lots of SMB version 1 RC, I believe there is. Yeah, Windows 10 SMB v1, like Eternal Blue, very popular RC. We see that with SMB v1. I wonder if this is the attack vector for this box. But we're going to keep that in our back pocket for now, and we're going to do some more enumeration. SMB internal, and now we're going to try users, Paul, and shares. This is going to try to bring all the users down, the password policy, and all the domain shares. And we see we cannot do shit. All right. Now I'm going to try guest authentication. So guest with no password. Guest account is disabled. There's another way to check for guest authentication, which is to put a dummy username and no password, and we get a status login failure. So it seems only the null authentication works, but we cannot do much with this because when you try to enumerate shares or anything useful, it just says status access denied, which is a very common configuration, by the way. With null authentication, you can basically configure uh, it to work, but not to provide any information. So it's possible to do that, and they have done that, which is a good thing. Uh, for SMB, what else can we do? We can see 5357, which is Microsoft HTTP API. Now, if you try to go there, you'd see it's service unavailable. So Microsoft HTTP API, if you search with that, it's basically to serve and work with Microsoft Win32 API, some lower level API calls. So it's not, even though it says 80, it's not really, probably it's not a web server that's being hosted. We can try with HTTPS and see if that works. Nothing. So yeah, it's not a web server that's being hosted. Um, all right. I guess that concludes port 445 and also 5337. Now, MSRPC are all Microsoft RPC call, remote procedure call. We can enumerate RPC. In fact, there is this tool called enum for Linux, NG, I believe. Yep, I want to install it. Um, and we're gonna do some enumeration with enum for Linux and G. It's a pretty cool tool. It can give us a lot of information. It has some built-in capabilities like RID brute force and gathering all the usernames and stuff like that. So enum for Linux NG, we need the host. The host would be internal, and that's it. I don't want to give it anything else. Um, Lots of information it's giving us. Let's try to check the information. SMB is accessible, we know that. SMB over net BIOS 139, we know that. Um, there is no domain, that's why it's called workgroup. So it's not part of an Active Directory domain, we know that. Okay, SMB version 1 is true, 2.02 is true, and everything else is false. So still now, this outdated SMB version is something very interesting that I want to look at. And preferred dialect is SMB 2.0.2. So if we can find anything around this, like exploit, CV, anything like that. Oh, look at that. It could allow remote code execution. That's interesting. We're gonna definitely look at that. Interesting that shadow brokers come up. Shadow brokers was the group that basically hacked NSA and they created this massive dump, which was a pretty cool story I heard in this podcast called Darknet Diaries. Check that out. It's pretty cool. NetBus computer name, which is the simply the PC name. It's internal. We have already added that to our Etsy hosts. Server allows authentication via username and password blank blank, which is null authentication. We have checked that already. Um, we have some operating system information. It's definitely 2008 standard 6001 service pack 1. This is another piece of information we have to keep in mind because we might need to combine it with our SMB information to find anything. All right. Uh, left the last thing left that is port 53, TNS NSID, Microsoft TNS. We have a version number, so why don't we check that and look for exploits for this one? This could also allow remote code execution. Interesting. We have a bunch of things in front of us. Microsoft released a patch for a 17-year-old remote code execution vulnerability. It seems it's from Rapid 7. Nothing much. DNS, remote overflow. I would not like to do a buffer overflow if it's that. Windows Server 2008 DNS RCE. Okay, it's a DNS RCE. That can be interesting. Um, Affected would be 2008 SP1R2. This is SP1 2008, but it's not R2. It might work, it might not work. I am still gonna try it later on, but not now. So this is another thing that we'd like to check out, I believe. All right. Looks like it's a pretty dead end. We can try some TNS pen test, so that would be zone transference stuff like that. But it's not an Active Directory domain. I doubt that we're gonna find anything with this. Um, Nmap already ran DNS NSID for us. DNS target domain. We don't have a domain, so I don't think zone transfer would be valuable here. Um, all right, let's look into this. Exploit RCE. If we try to look at that, SMB2 vulnerability. Oh, I actually want to show a very cool thing. NXC SMB internal, and using NXC you can do this cool thing called CVNum. Or I'm lying. How do you do it? NXC doc. I swear that there was like this CVNum thing. Tag M course plus um CVE enum nothing. That is bizarre. Okay, enum CVE doesn't work. Enum CV. Wow, that is something. I can swear I have used this exact command in um, pen tests. CVE enums CV. You know what? I'm gonna try it actually. What if it's enum CV? Oh, there we go. But yeah, we need to do this, I guess. Yeah, so status access denied. For most of the CV enumeration, we need some level of access, so we cannot really do it. Now, SMB version 1 is true. We're gonna also see SMB v1 exploit RCE Windows Server 2008 SP1. Let's see if we can find anything that database RCE 2.0.2 remote code execution. Um, CV 2009. I think this is interesting because it's using SMB2. Windows Server 2008 SP1 is vulnerable to this. And also, we have seen that our server actually prefers the dialect of SMB 2.0.2. So, what we're going to do is we're going to check this POC GitHub, something like that. MS0950. One-liner create generic payload for Windows. Start Metapreter. It's with Metapreter, Metasploit. I don't want to do it with Metasploit because it's practice for OSCP. I think they're doing it without Metasploit, so we're gonna copy their code actually. And we're gonna do the clone, get it, CVE, Python 3, MS. We need to put a target. You can just put internal. Error was NT status logon failure. Okay. How does it work? SMB code execution Python. Public exploit when you're on SMB connection module. Specific vulnerability authentication event to execute the payload. Okay. We can check out the Python code. It's a buffer overflow exploit. Not a buffer overflow, but we have to generate shell code, and yep, there goes the reason why it didn't work because I didn't check the code. So we basically generate our new shell code, and it has to follow our local host, our local port, and we have to go from there. I cannot just like randomly use this existing shell code. So yeah, let's try that now. So how to generate our shell code? First, it imports a bunch of libraries that it needs to work with. And for shellcode generation, we can do this. So we can basically try this. I guess Python, exit function thread is fine, lport 443 is fine, lhost on 0 is fine. It's also using a Metapreter reverse TCP, so yeah, I'm trying to find something without Metapreter because otherwise I can just use Metasploit. So enter a directory. Let's check this one actually. For this Py code, are we still using? Yeah, we're still using an exploit. Uh, MSF Venom payload generation. They take care of that. Are they using Metapreter? Let's see. I don't think so. So So I think this is our guy, our girl. So we're gonna try this. Get clone exploits cdcve Python 3 exploit.py. We need to put target IP, which would be internal. We need to put our IP, which should be 192.168 45.204, and we'd like to catch the reverse shell on 443. So it's gonna generate a payload for us. Not sure if we have to stand up a listening port for us, but I'll just do it just to be safe. So it's generating a payload generated with Windows shell reverse TCP. Let's go. It's not Metasploit. Sending malicious assembly packet to target. Packet sent. Trying to trigger the payload RPC client. But this might be normal. Check your listener anyway. The payload might have executed. I do not think so, partner. I do not think so. Well, let's look at the exploit code and see if we can fix it. If there's anything that we need to change. So this is some colors to make it look pretty. Windows shell reverse TCP. We could have put this in, but we didn't. It's fine. MSL Venom, tag P, lhost, like raw, main body of the exploit, stage hook from Metasploit. So for OSCP, I know that we're able to use Metasploit once, and I think any kind of buffer overflow or Windows related stuff where we have to tinker with some low level coding like C, or we have to generate some shell code and work with that. I think it's always a better idea to go with Metasploit, which I'm gonna try if this doesn't work out. So um, I'll try to set it up in a different way. I'll do RL wrap for listening in, and this time I'm gonna put in this. Oh, look at that. Wow, we have a shell. So our Penelope was failing us. You know what? I want to try Penelope one more time and see if this works. Would it work or would it not? Moment of truth. Then I'm gonna learn something new that no matter how much I love Penelope, it's not that good. Yep, Penelope is the bottleneck. All right, so I'm gonna try something. I will use RL wrap NC LVNP, but I'll try to see um, MSF Venom payload list to find out if I have any PowerShell reverse discipline. PowerShell shell reverse discipline. This could be one. CMD equal to PowerShell. This is just grabbing the reverse shell from somewhere else. I think let's try with the PowerShell one. No, this is Windows Shell versus CP. I cannot see. Okay, yeah. I'll just grab PowerShell later on. Let's see. Give us a shell, please. With Windows, it's very flaky most of the times, and sometimes if you yeah if you send the packets enough time, it enough times it basically crashes the server. So I'm gonna bite the bullet and I'm gonna use Metasploit for this one. It's fine. It's always as this video series is about testing and learning for OSCP. I think I would share my methodology for that. Uh, First, let's confirm that there is a Metasploit module for this one. There should be one, right? Because Metasploit usually has, yeah, Windows SMB MS09. Yeah, I'm gonna just copy this. Use exploit Windows SMB MS09. Negotiate func. Show options. Set our hosts to enter. Let's just grab the IP instead of the host. Set our port to 445. It's fine. Set lhost to times 0. Set set lhost to times 0, man. Show options. L4 is fine. Windows Vista server. I'm gonna check out the targets. Oh, that there is only one target. So again, show options. Windows Metaplex reverse TCP. Fine with everything. Let's just run it. Querying up to 186. Oh, okay. Stages are sending. It takes out a lot of headache. I'm just gonna turn off Kaido because we don't need any of that. Alrighty. We have a shell. Get UID, I think, Metaplex. Yep. We are anti-authority system. Wow. We didn't need to do anything. So we are basically root. Basically admin, the highest effective user. I'm just gonna drop into a shell and cd c users administrator dir cd desktop dir, and there's the proof.txt. This looks interesting. For the fun of it, I'll just type it. There is another thing, and we're going to type, yeah, there are two stuff. It's fine. We have basically solved the box. I wouldn't say it's an ideal way to go about the box. Now I can spend some time and figuring it out manually, but I don't think for this kind of boxes where you have to exploit some memory corruption issues or anything that doesn't have a public exploit and you have to write some shell code or go some low-level code editing. It's not worth it. Never does justice to the exam time limitation that OSCP has. So in my opinion, it's just easier to use Metasploit for that one instance and secure your 20, 30 points, however much it is assigned to that box. But yep, uh, that's all for this one. See you on the next one. Bye.